Pennsylvania is a state that people think they understand. Philadelphia on one end, Pittsburgh on the other, Amish country in the middle, and a lot of trees. That summary leaves out about 12 million things, including the specific collection of towns that make Pennsylvania genuinely strange in ways that no other state quite replicates. There are burning mines, groundhog celebrities, towns named by coin flips, and communities still speaking 18th century German. These are Pennsylvania, the 15 weird towns you didn't know. Number 15. Intercourse, Lancaster County. The town of Intercourse in Lancaster County was established in 1754 and has been explaining itself to outsiders essentially ever since. The name predates its current meaning as a primary connotation. The 18th century use of the word meant commerce or communication, and the town sits at the intersection of two major roads, making the name a reasonable geographical description by the standards of the era. Today, Intercourse is one of the more visited towns in Lancaster County's Amish country tourism corridor, drawing visitors who want to photograph the sign, shop at the local stores, and, if they're genuinely there for the destination rather than the name, explore one of the more intact living examples of old order Amish community life, accessible to outsiders anywhere in the United States. The Old Order Amish communities in Lancaster County are not a theme park recreation. They are functioning communities of approximately 45,000 people who have been living and farming the same land by the same practices since German-speaking immigrants began arriving in the early 18th century. What makes Intercourse specifically weird, beyond the obvious, is the juxtaposition. A town where horse-drawn buggies are a primary mode of transportation, where tourist buses arrive specifically to experience a community that has declined most of modernity, and where every other storefront sells quilts, hex signs, and whoopie pies. It is genuinely one of the odder tourism experiences available in the northeastern United States, and the town is completely aware of this. Number 14. Punxsutawney, Jefferson County. Punxsutawney, population approximately 5,800 in Jefferson County in western Pennsylvania, is the town that the entire country watches on February 2nd for the sole purpose of finding out whether a groundhog can forecast the weather. The meteorological tradition traces to German immigrants who brought the Candlemas weather forecasting custom to Pennsylvania in the 18th century, transferring the role of weather prophet from the hedgehog, not native to North America, to the groundhog, native, common, and indifferent to the ceremony surrounding it. Punxsutawney Phil has been performing the Groundhog Day ceremony since February 2nd, 1887, the first official celebration organized by the Punxsutawney Groundhog Club. Phil is, according to the club's own tradition, the same groundhog who has performed every year since 1887, kept perpetually young by a special groundhog punch. This claim is not scientifically supported, groundhogs living approximately 6 to 8 years in the wild. There have, it is safe to say, been multiple Punxsutawney Phils. The National Weather Service has evaluated Phil's accuracy at approximately 40%, slightly below chance, which means he is a worse weather forecaster than a coin flip. The town draws approximately 40,000 visitors on Groundhog Day itself, and the 1993 Bill Murray film Groundhog Day, which was filmed in Woodstock, Illinois, not Punxsutawney, brought the town global recognition it has been cheerfully capitalizing on ever since. Number 13. Jim Thorpe, Carbon County. Jim Thorpe is a town in Carbon County that was named after a person who had no connection to it. Jim Thorpe, born Watho Huck, a member of the Sac and Fox Nation, was one of the greatest athletes in American history, a two-time Olympic gold medalist in 1912, pentathlon and decathlon, a professional football and baseball player, and a figure of extraordinary athletic accomplishment who was stripped of his Olympic medals in 1913 for professionalism, only to have them posthumously restored in 1983. Jim Thorpe died in 1953 in Lomita, California, where he lived. The town of Mock Chunk, Pennsylvania, a 19th century coal and iron boomtown that had fallen on hard times by the 1950s, was seeking a way to attract investment and visitors. Thorpe's widow, Patricia, was unable to bury her husband in his birthplace in Oklahoma, and agreed to allow his burial in Mauch Chunk in exchange for the town renaming itself Jim Thorpe and building a memorial. The town officially became Jim Thorpe in 1954. The arrangement has been contested by Thorpe's descendants and the Sac and Fox Nation, who argue that his remains should be returned to Oklahoma. Federal litigation on the question has continued for decades, with an appeals court ruling in 2015 that the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act applied, though the matter remains unresolved. The town itself is beautiful, a preserved 19th century industrial boomtown on the Lehigh River, with Victorian architecture intact, now a destination for rafting, hiking, and heritage tourism. The Asa Packer Mansion, built in 1861 by the railroad magnate and founder of Lehigh University, is open as a historic house museum and is one of the best preserved Victorian-era mansions in Pennsylvania. The town's main street, Race Street, climbs the hillside from the central train station in a configuration that made it the filming location for multiple period productions, requiring an intact 19th century streetscape. The carbon in Carbon County comes from the anthracite coal that drove the region's economic history. The Lehigh Coal and Navigation Company built the Lehigh Canal through Mauch Chunk in the early 19th century specifically to move coal from the mines at Summit Hill and Tamaqua to markets in Philadelphia and New York. The Switchback Gravity Railroad, built in 1827 to move coal from the Summit Hill mines to the canal at Mauch Chunk, was later converted into one of America's first tourist attractions. People paid to ride the Gravity Railroad for the thrill of the descent, making it arguably the world's first roller coaster in design principle. It operated as a tourist attraction from 1844 to 1932. Jim Thorpe himself, whose athletic accomplishments at the 1912 Stockholm Olympics included gold medals in both the pentathlon and the decathlon, making him arguably the greatest multi-sport athlete of the 20th century, deserved a better afterlife than a town that bought his name as a promotional strategy. That the town now honors him more genuinely than the arrangement that brought him there would suggest is at least something. Number 12. Centralia, Columbia County. Centralia is the most documented weird town in Pennsylvania and is covered in other scripts in this series. The brief, a coal mine fire that has been burning beneath Centralia since May 1962. The majority of the town's 1,000 residents bought out and relocated by the federal government beginning in the 1980s. The borough's zip code revoked in 2002, and a current population of between 5 and 15 people who have legal life tenancy and who are, in the literal sense, living above a coal fire that experts estimate will burn for another 100 to 250 years. The cracks in the former Route 61 vent steam year-round and occasional carbon monoxide. It is, by any reasonable definition, the weirdest town in Pennsylvania, but it has received enough coverage to get the abbreviated entry here. Number 11. Kutztown, Berks County. Kutztown is a borough of approximately 5,000 people in Berks County that is home to Kutztown University of Pennsylvania, and, more relevantly for this list, the Kutztown Folk Festival, the oldest, largest, and most comprehensively documented Pennsylvania Dutch folk festival in the country. The festival has been running annually since 1950, typically in late June and early July, and draws approximately 100,000 visitors over its 9-day run. The Pennsylvania Dutch heritage that Kutztown documents and celebrates. The German-speaking immigrant communities of southeastern Pennsylvania, whose descendants produced the hex signs, the fractal calligraphy, the distinctive foodways, and the specific architectural and artistic traditions that differentiate the Pennsylvania Dutch cultural region from any other American cultural region, is specific to a geographic belt that runs through Berks, Lancaster, Lebanon, York, and adjacent counties. Pennsylvania Dutch is a corruption of Pennsylvania Deutsch, German, and the cultural expression it describes is not Dutch in the Netherlands sense, but German in the 18th century Palatinate and Rhine Valley sense. The folk festival hosts traditional craftspeople, food vendors, musical performances, and cultural demonstrations in a format that has been running essentially continuously for 75 years. The stuffed pig stomach that appears on the menu is exactly what it sounds like. The choufle pie is better than it has any right to be. Number 10. Gravity, Wayne County. Gravity is an unincorporated community in Wayne County in northeastern Pennsylvania. A small settlement with a memorable name that has generated curiosity about how it acquired it. The name does not refer to the physical force. It derives from the Gravity Railroad, one of the early gravity-powered rail systems in Pennsylvania, which used the natural slope of the terrain to move coal cars downhill without mechanical power, with the empty cars pulled back uphill by horses or mules. Gravity railroads were a specific technology of the early Pennsylvania coal industry. Before steam locomotives could manage the grades of the coal-producing mountains, loaded coal cars were sent down carefully engineered inclined planes by gravity, while empties were returned to the top by the draft animals who had ridden down in the cars. The Gravity Railroad in Wayne County operated as part of the regional coal and lumber transportation network before being superseded by steam locomotion. The community that formed around the railroad terminus took its name from the railroad. This is a more common naming pattern in Pennsylvania than it might seem. Dozens of Pennsylvania communities are named for the industrial operations that established them, which is one of the reasons the state map contains towns named Coaldale, Irondale, Furnace Creek, and dozens of other industrial designations that have outlasted the industries themselves. Number 9. Coudersport, Potter County. Coudersport is the seat of Potter County in north-central Pennsylvania. Potter County being the county with the lowest population density in Pennsylvania east of the Mississippi River. Approximately 17 people per square mile, in a county that is 70% forested and includes the headwaters of the Allegheny, Susquehanna, and Genesee rivers. The specific weird note on Coudersport is Potter County itself. Potter County has been documented as one of the least visited counties in Pennsylvania, one of the coldest, average January temperatures below 20 degrees Fahrenheit with records well below zero, and one of the highest at elevation. The Potter County highlands average above 2,000 feet and include several of Pennsylvania's highest points. The region is known as the Pennsylvania Wilds and produces a specific variety of wilderness isolation that is genuinely rare east of the Mississippi. The town of Coudersport has a population of approximately 2,500. Its county seat functions include the courthouse and the associated county services. It has a main street of small-town commercial character that is typical of rural Pennsylvania county seats, but that exists in the specific context of one of the wildest and emptiest counties east of the Mississippi. The Pennsylvania Wilds designation, a tourism and economic development brand applied to the north-central Pennsylvania counties, including Potter, Cameron, Clinton, Clearfield, and several adjacent counties, promotes the region's genuinely unusual combination of wilderness character and accessibility. The elk herd that roams the Benezet area of Elk County, adjacent to Potter County, is the largest free-ranging elk herd in the eastern United States. The Pennsylvania Game Commission estimated approximately 1,400 elk in the north-central Pennsylvania herd as of recent surveys. An extraordinary wildlife reality that most Americans have no idea exists within Pennsylvania. Potter County's other contribution to Pennsylvania's specific character, it contains the geographic center of Pennsylvania, marked by a monument in Pottsville Township. It also contains the Pennsylvania Route 6 corridor, which winds through the county and is considered one of the most scenic driving routes in Pennsylvania. The dark sky conditions in Potter County's most remote sections put it in the category of places where genuine, unpolluted night sky observation is possible. A rarity within the Northeastern Corridor's light pollution band. Number 8. Ambler, Montgomery County. Ambler is a Montgomery County suburb of Philadelphia with a specific and documented industrial heritage that makes it genuinely unusual. The borough was the center of one of the major asbestos manufacturing operations in the United States for most of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and the legacy of that industry is a set of asbestos waste piles, called sky dumps by residents, that sat within residential neighborhoods for decades before Superfund cleanup operations began. Keysbay and Madison Company, founded in Ambler in the 1870s by Richard Madison, manufactured asbestos products, including pipe insulation, roofing materials, and fireproofing for several decades. The waste material from the manufacturing process, asbestos-contaminated fill, was dumped in multiple locations throughout Ambler and used as fill for roads and residential developments. The EPA designated the Ambler Asbestos Piles site as a Superfund site in 1983, and cleanup operations have continued for decades, remediating approximately 15 acres of waste piles. What makes Ambler weird in 2025 is the contrast between its current character, a walkable, gentrifying, transit-connected suburb with good restaurants and a Main Street art scene, and the specific industrial toxicology beneath it. Several of the sky dumps have been remediated into green spaces, including a park that sits on a capped asbestos pile. The history is public knowledge and is documented on historical markers. Ambler is simultaneously a nice place to live and an EPA Superfund cleanup site. Number 7. Hershey, Dauphin County. Hershey is not weird in a dark or alarming sense. It is weird in the specific way of a company town built by a chocolate company that has become a tourist destination while continuing to function as an active chocolate manufacturing complex. The smell of chocolate is documented as genuinely detectable in the air in Hershey on days when production is active. The street lamps along Chocolate Avenue are designed in the shape of Hershey's kisses. The zip code is 17033. The local hockey team is the Hershey Bears. Milton Hershey built the town of Hershey, Pennsylvania, specifically to house the workers of the Hershey Chocolate Company after establishing his factory there in 1903. He built homes, schools, a hospital, a department store, a trolley system, an amusement park, Hershey Park, and the Hotel Hershey, and operated the entire infrastructure as a company town until transferring most of the civic infrastructure to the borough government over time. He also established the Milton Hershey School, a residential school for children from low-income families, and endowed it with the controlling interest in Hershey Entertainment and Resorts, and a significant stake in Hershey Company, making the school one of the wealthiest educational institutions in the United States by endowment. The current Hershey Company is a publicly traded Fortune 500 company. The Milton Hershey School's endowment is approximately $17 billion, comparable to the endowments of major universities. The town that smells like chocolate is managing an unusual financial legacy. Number 6. Ohiopyle, Fayette County. Ohiopyle is a borough in Fayette County in southwestern Pennsylvania, with a documented population of approximately 59 people as of the 2020 census, making it one of the smallest incorporated municipalities in Pennsylvania. The name comes from the Lenape Ohiopyle, meaning frothy water, a reference to the Youghiogheny River Gorge that runs through and defines the borough. The Youghiogheny River falls at Ohiopyle, a 20-foot cascade where the Youghiogheny drops over sandstone ledges in the middle of the borough, is one of the more dramatic natural features in southwestern Pennsylvania and is the center of a state park of approximately 19,000 acres that draws approximately 1.5 million visitors per year. The whitewater on the Youghiogheny through the Ohiopyle Gorge is some of the best commercially rafted whitewater in the eastern United States. The specific weirdness: the borough has 59 permanent residents and approximately 1.5 million annual visitors. The ratio is notable. The permanent residents live in a community that exists at a scale calibrated for the visitors rather than for themselves. The restaurants, outfitters, and visitor infrastructure of Ohiopyle is not scaled for 59 people. Frank Lloyd Wright's Falling Water is approximately 8 miles from Ohiopyle on the Bear Run tributary of the Youghiogheny. Kentuck Knob, another Wright-designed house, is 5 miles away. The concentration of Wright architecture in the Youghiogheny River Valley is the most significant outside of the Chicago area. Number 5. Paradise, Lancaster County. Paradise is a small community in Lancaster County that sits a few miles east of Intercourse, and the juxtaposition of the two community names on road signs in the same county is a source of specific amusement that Lancaster County has been generating since approximately the first time anyone drove through. Paradise is an unincorporated township village rather than a borough, with a small residential and agricultural character consistent with the surrounding Lancaster County landscape. The name is documented in county records from the early 19th century and is believed to derive either from a local landowner's property name or from the general tendency of early Pennsylvania settlers to name their communities with aspirational or religious significance, a tendency that also produced Canaan, Eden, Harmony, and dozens of other theologically themed Pennsylvania place names. The Lancaster County concentration of theologically named communities is itself a reflection of the Pennsylvania Dutch and Anabaptist heritage of the region. Communities named Intercourse, Paradise, Bird in Hand, Blue Ball, and Fertility in the same county are not a deliberate collection of odd place names. They are the accumulated result of 18th and 19th century naming practices that have become more notable as their connotations shifted over time. Number 4. Centralia Revisited, or seriously, the fire is still going. Given that Centralia received an abbreviated entry at number 12, this slot goes to Carbondale in Lackawanna County, which is Centralia's lesser-known northeastern Pennsylvania counterpart. Carbondale has its own documented history of underground mine fires. The first underground anthracite mine fire in the United States was documented in Carbondale in the 1840s. And the city's history is inseparable from the subsurface coal geology that both built it and threatened it. Carbondale was founded in 1815 and became the eastern terminus of the Delaware and Hudson Canal's gravity railroad system. The Stourbridge Lion, the first steam locomotive operated in the United States, made its trial run near Carbondale on August 8, 1829. The city's gravity railroad system for moving coal from the mines to the canal was one of the first commercial rail operations in North America. Carbondale is literally the town where American railroad history began, and almost nobody knows this. The population of Carbondale has declined from approximately 18,000 in 1920 to approximately 8,000 today. The mine fire legacy, the economic contraction of the anthracite coal industry, and the general economic pressures of the northeastern Pennsylvania region have all contributed. The Stourbridge Lion connection is documented, commemorated, and almost entirely unknown outside of Pennsylvania railroad history circles. Number 3. Cornwall, Lebanon County. Cornwall in Lebanon County is one of the more historically significant small communities in Pennsylvania and one of the least visited. The Cornwall Iron Furnace, a National Historic Landmark, is one of the best preserved colonial-era ironworks in the United States, operating from 1742 to 1883, and producing iron that armed both British forces in the French and Indian War and American forces in the Revolutionary War. The Cornwall iron ore deposits were among the largest known iron ore deposits in the eastern United States at the time of their discovery in the early 18th century. The mines were operated continuously for over 2 centuries, and the Cornwall Iron Mine is the only remaining significant magnetite ore deposit in Pennsylvania east of the Appalachians. The mining created an underground infrastructure that has since been partly documented by geologists and partly flooded. The Cornwall Iron Furnace site, the blast furnace, the charcoal house, and the ancillary industrial buildings is maintained by the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission and is open to visitors. It is one of those places that is genuinely extraordinary for anyone interested in American industrial history and genuinely unknown to most people who live within an hour of it. The iron that Cornwall produced appears in the historical record of both sides of the Revolution without the modern recognition that attaches to the battles the iron was used in. The specific Cornwall story that most visitors do not know. The Coleman family, who controlled the Cornwall Iron Furnace for much of the 18th and early 19th centuries, were among the most significant industrial families in colonial and early American Pennsylvania. Robert Coleman, who managed and eventually owned the furnace, became the first millionaire in Pennsylvania through his iron operations. His daughter, Sarah Coleman, married James Bird, and his other enterprises and family connections tied the Cornwall iron economy into the broader Pennsylvania colonial elite network in ways that made the furnace a significant node in the colonial economy. The 1742 blast furnace that survives at the Cornwall site is extraordinarily rare, as a standing industrial structure of that age in the United States. Most colonial-era industrial sites have been demolished, burned, or deteriorated beyond recognition. The Cornwall furnace has its original stone blast furnace stack, the casting house, the charcoal house, and several ancillary structures in a condition that allows visitors to understand the actual operational character of an 18th century ironworks. The scale, the process, and the specific physical environment of early American heavy industry. The Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission, which operates the site, has maintained it as a working interpretive site rather than a static ruin. Lebanon County and the Cornwall area also have a specific geological distinction. The Great Valley section of the Ridge and Valley Physiographic Province, which runs through Lebanon County and includes the Cornwall magnetic iron ore deposits, is one of the most geologically distinctive sections of the Appalachian system. The specific magnetite ore body at Cornwall, a skarn deposit associated with the contact between limestone and igneous intrusions, produced ore for 141 consecutive years. Number 2. Gravity's counterpart, Tionesta, Forest County. Forest County is the least populated county in Pennsylvania, with approximately 7,000 residents in a county of 431 square miles, approximately 16 people per square mile, all of which is heavily forested. Tionesta, the county seat, has a population of approximately 500 people. What Tionesta and Forest County have is the Allegheny National Forest, one of the largest national forests in the eastern United States, covering approximately 513,000 acres across Forest, Warren, McKean, and Elk counties. The Allegheny Reservoir, created by the Army Corps of Engineers Kinzua Dam on the Allegheny River, covers approximately 12,000 acres and is the primary recreation draw for the region. The corn planter Indians, who lived along the Allegheny River in this region for centuries, had their land and their chief corn planters grant flooded by the Kinzua Dam's construction in 1965. A displacement that the Seneca Nation marked with a monument at the Corn Planter Monument State Park. Tionesta itself has the specific character of a county seat in a wilderness county, a courthouse, a small number of businesses, a diner, and the surrounding forest in every direction. It is the kind of place that exists specifically because Pennsylvania state law requires every county to have a seat of government, regardless of whether the county has the population to generate meaningful commercial activity around that requirement. Number 1. Bird in Hand, Lancaster County. Bird in Hand is an unincorporated community in Earl Township, Lancaster County, with a name that derives from, depending on which local tradition you follow, either a 1734 tavern sign showing a bird in a hand, a common British public house symbol, a surveyor's expression when deciding to use one road rather than continuing to measure a potential shortcut, a bird in hand is worth two in the bush, or some combination of the two. The community is small. The center of Bird in Hand is a stretch of Route 340, Old Philadelphia Pike, with a farmer's market, several Amish-owned stores, a bakery, and a few tourist-oriented businesses. The farmer's market has been operating since 1945 and draws visitors for the specific combination of locally produced food, handmade goods, and the general Lancaster County tourist experience. What makes Bird in Hand the #1 entry is the concentrated absurdity of the Lancaster County place name geography in which it exists. On a 15-mile stretch of Route 340 between Lancaster and the eastern edge of Lancaster County, a driver passes through or near Ronks, Gap, Intercourse, Bird in Hand, and Paradise. These are not themed or invented names. They are documented place names established by real communities over 2 centuries. The county also contains Blue Ball, Fertility, technically in Chester County but on the Lancaster border, and dozens of other named communities that form a geography that is, as a complete package, genuinely unlike any other county in the United States. As Pennsylvania travel writer and Lancaster County historian David Haas described the road, people drive Route 340 and think someone is making the signs up. Nobody made them up. These are just the names, and they've been the names since before the United States existed. 15 Pennsylvania towns, a town that named itself after a dead athlete who never lived there. A community where 59 people host 1.5 million visitors, a suburb built on an asbestos cleanup site, a borough that sold its name and its post office to a groundhog, and a county road where you can drive from Intercourse to Paradise through bird in hand in under 20 minutes. Pennsylvania is a lot weirder than it looks on the map. Hit that like button and subscribe. More content like this coming.